In 2026, everyone is trying to find the perfect country to open their offshore company. And while everybody knows about the US LLC, today I'm going to be talking about another option that most people don't even know about. You probably heard about it online, especially if you are in the e-commerce space, but realistically, you probably don't know anything about it. And the option I'm talking about is Hong Kong. In 2024, I went to Hong Kong for the first time. I was not searching for an insane offshore company option. I was just there for the sake of visiting. And I met someone that I didn't know at the time would become one of our greatest partners when it comes to helping our clients, and who is basically our Hong Kong certified CPA. We incorporated tens, if not 60 plus companies in Hong Kong with him for our clients. And after having that experience and seeing what the true benefits of Hong Kong were, I decided to make this video to kind of explain everything so you guys have a full idea of what to expect when it comes to Hong Kong companies. So let's get straight into it. So why people do open companies in Hong Kong, right? The truth is, the first ones to hear about Hong Kong are usually the ones doing e-commerce. The reason why is because China is usually their place of production and their clients are usually in Europe or North America. So what is the best place in the world to be the bridge between those two? Hong Kong. You can accept payments from Europe, from America, from wherever you have clients, and you can use Chinese payment methods to basically pay your Chinese suppliers. So it's a very good bridge between the two. But the reality is that this bridge doesn't just need to be for e-commerce. It can also be a super nice way to kind of utilize the efficiency of, Asian countries, whether it be with banks or payment processors, and at the same time, take payments from your customers in the West. Additionally, it has some of the safest options regarding banking, where you don't actually have to travel to the country to open the banks yourself. Of course, hear me out. You can probably say, well, but Revan, why don't I just go to Switzerland and I just deposit my money in the bank? Or why don't I just go to Singapore and I open an account and I just put my money there? Because realistically, those countries do not necessarily allow anybody to open accounts, first of all. And secondly, when they do, you have to travel there. You have to go to the physical branch banks. In Hong Kong, they made a bridge between the two. They invited banks, such as DBS, for example, to allocate their treasury as a bank to your business, while they legally allow you to open your account completely remotely, using them as a service provider, as a fintech. But your money at the end of the day is still stored by DBS, by HSBC, or by Barclays, or by these big banks that you probably already know. It's just managed by a separate entity, which is the fintech that you open. So maybe it's Airwallex, maybe it's Payoneer, maybe it's Currency, maybe it's Ping Pong, and so on and so forth. Nowadays, Hong Kong has a lot of banks offering that, and it is really one of the best jurisdictions to do this. They also made a system which is insane, that basically allows you to have currencies in more than 25 countries, not just with one account and a set of currencies, but with a specific account dedicated to that currency in the local format of the country where the currency is based. So as an example, if you have USD, it will be on a US bank account with an account number and a routing number. If you have a UK account with GBP in it, it's going to be with basically an account number and a sort code. If you have euros, it will be on a German IBAN, and so on and so forth. To me, it's one of the most underrated places. And the reason why it's so underrated is not because the world is closing their eyes on it and they don't hear about it. It's because it just does not get as much popularity as it should. Many people nowadays, they buy whatever is popular. They see Dubai is popular, they go for Dubai. They see the USLC is popular, they go for the USLC. And same thing for Cyprus, and same thing for this and that. They just look at whatever is famous and they consider this as being the best. But that's not how it works, right? If you look at tax optimization, oftentimes the best options are the ones that are quietly happening, or quietly operating, or quietly being opened by, multimillionaires and people who have a lot of money and have the best strategists that have investigated and thinking, okay, what is the best option for my setup? Now let's talk a little bit about the process and how it works. The first thing that we do is we start the incorporation of the company. Hong Kong is one of these places where the incorporation can take as little as 24 hours sometimes. And all we need is to have a set of information from you in order to start the incorporation. So these are typically things like the company name, your proof of address, your passport, and information related to the business activity that you conduct. Then this gets sent to the Hong Kong government for the incorporation. We need to sign a document, which is basically an incorporation file. And when every page is signed, it gets sent for incorporation, and then the government resends you your company documents. All of the documents that will allow you to legally run this company, apply for banking, and pretty much be already able to receive payments. basically just a few days to get everything up and running. Now, that being said, little warning here. It's not because the bank account is quick to open that they're not going to ask you questions later on. And you have to be prepared that Hong Kong is one of these jurisdictions where they can ask a lot more questions than places like the US, for example, where generally they tend to ask nothing, but if something is wrong, they will just close your account instantly. Versus Hong Kong will not close your account instantly. Banks won't do that, but they will, every time they have a doubt about you, ask for questions for anti-money laundering purposes. And so some clients face this kind of difficulties when, for example, the banks don't understand what business they run and they just ask a lot of questions. And those questions may tend to basically be a little bit complicated in the long run because of the fact that they constantly have to come with justifications for everything. Now, these are not all the banks, and this is not the case with all clients, but it can be the case if your business model is a little bit more complicated than, the typical agency or the typical consultant or the typical service-based business, right? If you have something more complex. E-commerce is a little bit easier because payment processes are usually centralizing payments. So if you use a payment processor like Shopify Payments and everything falls in there, and then you basically just get a payout from Shopify Payments every week or every 3 days, then of course it's a lot easier for Airwallex to understand, or for Payoneer, that you're receiving payments from every time the same payment processor, and they might just ask for proof, for example, that your payment processor shows real products or something that shows that you're actually selling something real. But in general, it's way easier. So in case this is something you've ever experienced, feel free to comment under this video and tell me about your problem. I'm pretty sure we can help you solve it. Now, what are the actual benefits of having a Hong Kong company, right? You've probably been watching this video thinking, okay, I'm waiting for some concrete information on what am I getting, why should I incorporate in such a far country or in such a different jurisdictions to the ones that I usually hear? And the answer is pretty simple. Besides everything that I shared already in this video, the major reason why people open in Hong Kong is because of the fact that it allows people to pay 0% corporate tax if they do not have clients in Hong Kong. That is the number one, and I would say quite much only requirement that Hong Kong has to grant 0% tax to people. And this is generally something that 95% of people either way will have, because Hong Kong is a very small market, and it's not like you're transacting with the US or a country that could be extremely common to make business with. It's something very specific. So in the basic major case scenarios of our clients and of people in general, it's very rare that people transact with Hong Kong. So in general, most people are eligible for that 0% in Hong Kong. And that is the major reason why they go for it. Of course, we could talk about banking, security, we could talk about the efficiency, we could talk about many other advantages. But I would say that the first one is the tax advantage, of course. Then, of course, there are other things to keep in consideration. Those things could be, for example, we have access to banking insiders. Those banking insiders allow us faster solutions and to be able to solve problems that you could typically not solve if you were to deal with the typical customer support of banks, because they can be pretty bad sometimes. And fortunately, we have solutions for these things. So this in itself is a major advantage. And the fact that it's a small place, right? Hong Kong is not a big jurisdiction. So it's generally pretty simple to get in touch with, majority of the online banks versus, the US. If you had to go about getting good connects at the banks, it would take you a lot longer. And it's a far more, big and huge country. So obviously this is something that makes a difference. And it feels like everything is just more simple in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is evolving in a direction right now where, to be fair, there's a lot of great stuff coming. They recently talked about getting involved in the crypto space and facilitating how you can introduce crypto within banking, because until now it was not really something widely used. And to be fair, it's something that I'm genuinely excited for, because a lot of our clients, they use crypto and they want to combine that with their Hong Kong company. So some projects are currently in discussions with the Hong Kong government and will probably be implemented within the next 6 to 12 months. So we're really looking forward to that. The major reason why I recommend everyone to open a Hong Kong company is because when you start making good money and you're making more than 30, 40K per month, it doesn't make sense to stick up with something that is not the best, right? So the US is very widely used structure, but it's not necessarily the best one. And to be fair, I don't see why, if you're making serious money, you would want to stick up with the basic thing that everyone has. I think you should go for the best. And that's why I always say to people, just find the best solution for your situation. That's why I always offer people to have a call with us to try to understand deeper what you do. If you're in this situation where you're looking at offshore setups and you don't really know what to do, I strongly advise to come to book a call under this video. I'll put a calendar link with one of us. Try to basically figure out if you're eligible for a Hong Kong setup. If you're not, what all the alternatives available to you. The US can also be an alternative in some cases. But yeah, I just want to make sure that you understand this is not for everybody. And it's really a question of finding the right structure for the situation that you have. Really the number one advice I can give.